Okay, so we're looking, this is a system of nonlinear equations. What do we mean by that? Well, first off, it's more than one. So it's a system. It's not just one. It's a system. It's two of them. And they're not both linear, meaning they're not both straight lines. This first one is linear right here. But the second one is nonlinear. Why? Because it has x squared. Anything that has a higher power is not linear. In fact, that's why don't I, just to be clear, oops, wait, let me try that again. Why don't I change the color? So this one is non-linear because it has the x squared. So this one right here is the red one. It's the curve. It's the minus x squared. You know, an x squared is a U shape and the negative means it's going down. And then the linear one, that's just x to the first power. Linear is just x to the first power. That one is the straight line. All right. And so we see 2 points of intersection. See those 2 points of intersection? Those are the two answers we're looking for. We want to find those 2 points of intersection. Now, we're not going to be able to find them by looking at the graph. We're going to have to actually do stuff with the equations, but I want to be clear as we dive in what it is we're looking for. So we're looking for those 2 points of intersection. What are those 2 points? How can we find those 2 points? Because those 2 points are going to be the points that make both equations true. Remember, if a point is on a graph, it means it makes the equation true. So this point is on both graphs, which means it makes both equations true. And this point also, another intersection point, is on both graphs. Therefore, it makes both equations true. All right, so how do we do it? Well, basically, the method is, let's start, put up here number 1. Start with the x to the first power and plug in to the second. What do I mean? Well, the first one is y equals, so here, let me be clear. We're starting with the x first. We're going to plug it into the second equation. So the first equation is y equals, sorry, I'm just being kind of scribbly out here. The first equation is y is minus 2x plus 1. Okay. And I'm going to plug that into the second equation. In fact, let me just keep the colors here. I'm going to plug that into the second. So y equals minus 2x plus 1. The second equation right here is y equals minus x squared plus 1. Well, if y equals minus 2x plus 1, then I can plug it in right there for y because it's equal. You tracking with what I did there? So on that first equation is telling me y is equal, meaning it's the same as negative 2x plus 1. It's equal to, it's the same as negative 2x plus 1. So that means you can replace y in the other equation with negative 2x plus 1 because y is equal to negative 2x plus 1. So now I get this equation and I need to solve it. So how do we do that? Well, that's step 2. Okay, color here. Step 2, solving an x squared. We've done this before. Remember how you solve an x squared? First, get it equal to 0. So I'm going to take this equation minus 2x plus 1 equals minus x squared plus 1. And I've got to get it equal to 0. All right, well, the easiest way to do that is to jump this guy over here and this guy over here. So we'll get plus x squared minus 2x plus 1 minus 1 equals 0. Do you see what happened there? I just jumped that stuff to the other side. Really, what I did is I just subtracted 1 from both sides, and I added x squared to both sides, if you prefer. Oops, I didn't do that too neatly. There we go. I really did that. I really just added x squared to both sides and subtracted 1 from both sides, which got rid of everything on the right side. I just did the opposite of everything on the right side, which got a 0. So get it equal to 0 and move x squared to the side where he's positive x squared, right? It just makes it easier to have him be positive. So now what do we have? Now we have x squared minus 2x equals 0, right? The plus 1, the minus 1 cancel. All right, we good there? And now, second, we can just factor. This is actually meaning you can just take out an x like that because they both have x in common. Remember that how that works? If two terms both have something in common, you can take it out. So I take out the x that they have in common. It's basically reverse distribution, right? Because if I was to distribute it back, if that x was to multiply here and here, it would go right back to x squared and minus 2x, wouldn't it? And then you set each part equal to 0. So I say, okay, so second you factor, third each equals 0. So we have this x alone is 0, or this part's equal to 0. Remember the logic behind that? If two things are multiplying to equal 0, like what if I said, hey, I'm thinking of two numbers and I'm multiplying them and the answer is coming out 0. What do you know? Well, the first one could be 0 or the second one could be 0, right? Because if either one of those is 0, then they'll multiply to be 0. So that's what's happening here. We have something multiplied by something, right? Parentheses mean multiply, equaling 0. So that means the first one could be 0 or the second one could be 0. And then we finish solving the second one. Add 2 to both sides. These cancel. So the answers are 0 or 2. So we got our two answers for x. They are 0 or 2. 0 or 2. Now those are your two x answers, but now we need to figure out a y answer with each of those. How do you do that? Well, now, this is up here, step 2 was solving for x squared. Step 3, plug each x into the easier x to the first power equation to find y. So plug each x into the easier x to the first power equation. And let me put equation. Into the easier x to the first power equation to find y. So let's grab the easier one. What was it? It was right here. Y equals minus 2x plus 1. So I'll take x equals 0, plugging into y equals minus 2x plus 1. And right? And I'll take the second one, x equals 2, and plug that one into minus 2x plus 1 also. So plug in the 0, plug in the 2. What do you get? minus 2 times 0 plus 1. Y is 1. Minus 2 times 2 plus 1 minus 3. So 1 and minus 3. So what's my answers here? It's 0, 1, because x equals 0 led to y equals 1. And this one is 2 minus 3, and put a comma between them. Those are my two answers with parentheses, 0, 1, and 2 minus 3. Does that make sense? And let's look at the pictures. Does that look right? So this one right here, this looks like, this has got to be the 0, 1 right there, doesn't it? And this one right there has got to be the over 2 down 3. That looks about right, doesn't it? It looks good. So let's recap. What just happened on that problem? So I took the two equations. I started with the easier one, the x to the first power, because that was an easier equation. Start with the easier one, the x to the first. Plug that into the other one, y equals negative 2x plus 1. So replace y on the second equation with negative 2x plus 1. Then you get this equation. Now, how do you solve an x squared? Well, you got to jump the x squared to the other side because you want to make the x squared positive. You want to make it positive. So so you jump it onto the left, and then you get a 0, and then you factor out the x, set each one equal to 0 and solve. So we get x equals 0 and x equals 2. And then take each of those x's and plug it into the original, easier x to the first power equation. So I plug into the x to the first power equation, x is 0, x is 2, and I get the y values that go with those x values. So there we go. There's our two answers.